Welcome to the Software Process and Measurement Cast number 850. I'm Tom Cagley, your host. Several weeks ago, I spent too much time in the middle of the night considering a scenario of apparent change resistance. I concluded that not everything that looks like resistance is what it appears. Rather, there was a larger issue hiding in plain sight. The concept of change indifference or change apathy. As a change leader, the difference is not academic because it impacts how to address the issue. As organizations remold themselves to address the culture and pressures of the 2020s, we need to find a path to empower organizations and to improve their craft while at the same time struggling with the pressures to contain cost and grow. The solution cannot be merely messaging. We also have a visit from Susan Parente. We discuss manipulation and persuasion from the Not A Scrumdamentalist perspective. Remember, Mastering Work Intake sponsors the Spamcast. Have you looked at your to-do list? This is the second month of 2025. Is your work intake process in balance? If not, it's time to learn to take control. Buy a copy of Mastering Work Intake, link in the show notes, either at Amazon or at J. Ross Publishing. Do you want to test the water before spending part of your hard-earned paycheck? Jeremy Willits and I offer a free 30-minute office hour session. In these sessions, we'll facilitate helping to identify and create a plan to tackle one of your work intake challenges. Book time, link in the show notes. Change Resistance or Apathy by Thomas M. Cagley Jr., Megan E. Cagley. Several weeks ago, I spent too much time in the middle of the night considering a scenario of apparent change resistance. Except it wasn't. I concluded that not everything that looks like resistance is what it appears to be. Rather, there was a bigger issue hiding in plain sight, the concept of change indifference or change apathy. Pick your words. As a change leader, the difference is not academic because it impacts how to address the issue. As organizations remold themselves to address the culture and pressures of the 2020s, we need to find a path to empower organizations and to improve their craft while at the same time struggling with pressures to contain costs and grow. The solution cannot be merely messaging. Change indifference is different from resistance, and understanding that distinction is crucial for finding effective solutions. Focusing on the why behind the change is paramount. The difference between perceived control and resource management versus team empowerment resonates strongly. Messaging is part of the solution, but not the whole solution. When leaders mandate change and prescribe solutions, no one is empowered. This yields an uptake that has more energy than a caffeine addict just waking from a long winter's nap. This is change indifference rather than resistance. Resistance implies an active pushback, whereas apathy suggests a lack of engagement altogether, which is a different beast. It's like trying to shift an already moving boulder versus trying to motivate someone just sitting still. The strategies are fundamentally different. The perception of control and resource management is key. If people believe these changes are primarily about top-down control rather than empowering them to do their best work, it's no wonder they're disengaged. We need to shift that perception. Here are some thoughts on how we might address these issues by going beyond messaging and establishing demonstrable proof that change will benefit teams. This could involve 1. Co-creation, involving team members in designing and implementing, giving them ownership. 2. Pilot programs, start small with change and showcase their positive impact on specific teams before wider rollout. This allows for iterative improvement and builds trust. 3. Transparency, openly communicate the real reasons behind the changes, including challenges and trade-offs. Don't just focus on the positives. Honesty builds credibility. 4. Focus on what's in it for them. Clearly articulate how these changes will make their jobs easier, more efficient, or more fulfilling. Quantifiable benefits are mandatory. 5. Address the fear directly. Create a safe space to voice their concerns without fear of retribution. This might involve anonymous surveys, focus groups, or one-on-one conversations. Understanding the specific fears will help tailor responses. Responses cannot be just messaging. 6. Empowerment, not control. Find ways to demonstrate that any changes are about empowering rather than controlling. This could involve delegating more decision-making power to teams, providing them with the resources they need to succeed, and recognizing and rewarding their contributions. 7. An iterative approach. Acknowledge that change is a process, not an event. Haven't I somehow said, if change is a never-ending journey? Be prepared to adjust your approach based on feedback and results. Show a willingness to adapt and build trust and encourage engagement. I've ended each software process and measurement cast with this statement. If process improvement is a never-ending journey, why do so many people ask, are we there yet? Call me. I'd love to discuss these ideas further and to help you develop a concrete plan. Thoughts, comments, all welcome. Please feel free to reach out to us at spamcastinfo@gmail.com or leave a message at 1-440-668-5717 in the United States. I'm also on WhatsApp. Reach out. Let's talk. Susan Parente, welcome back to the Software Measurement and, the Software Process and Measurement Cast. I'm glad I edit my own stuff.
Oh, thank you so much. I was actually just showing my husband the other day that I have a podcast, and I showed him your podcast, and I said, well, I'm a featured speaker, but thank you for all you do. It's wonderful, and I'm not just a speaker. I am a listener. I will listen to your podcast with others. So if you're listening now, know that how valuable that is, because most people who are doing podcasts are pretty particular as to how they spend their time listening. So Tom always pulls together some really great people. So thank you.
I think it's funny. We met in Philadelphia at an Agile Philadelphia conference. Physically met, which is so wild because, I know Jeremy Berrio is on the cast. He and I met at a conference. I've never physically met John Quigley. He might actually be an AI for all I know and not be real. Maybe
that would explain why he's so knowledgeable of it.
Why he's written so many books and all that, has that weird beard. Hey, Susan, as a leader, as someone who works with people, there are people that manipulate other people. And manipulation, I'm not real big fan of most of the time. And then there are those who just try to persuade people. And I don't know that always gets the right answer or ends up in a good scenario. Manipulation or persuasion, which is the right answer?
Yeah, it's interesting that manipulation, like I hear that and I'm just like, yeah, it
Your
doesn't
skin
seem
crawls.
it feels like in order to manipulate that I may be lying, and I have a fundamental problem with that. I approach my work with a morality and integrity that I will say I don't think everybody does, and that's okay, because I'm still gonna do.
No, that's not okay. But that's
Well, meaning I'm not okay with it, but I can't control other people, but I can control me.
I get it.
Yeah. So I have some challenges with that. I actually I'm going to see if I can try to explain this without giving away too much information about it, but one of the organizations that I've interacted with shared something that they thought was leadership, and it was kind of like manipulating prey into the lair, and they were calling it leadership, and I'm like, I guess that could be called leadership. I would call that manipulation. You know what I mean? Like they were basically saying, if I could lead a person to do something that I need, like follow me to do something that I need to do, and it's going to put them in harm's way and they do it, I'm a great leader. And I disagree. I don't think that makes you a great leader. I think that it makes you a person who can manipulate people.
Especially if you duck before you let them know that they're in harm's way.
Yeah, my husband and I were just watching the movie Napoleon that it came out I think in 2023 or 2024, just recently. If you look for Napoleon, unfortunately, you can find like a lot of documentaries, but it was a recent movie, and he was not just leading his people into battle like without him. He was there. He was right behind them. He was, obviously the leader isn't the first one out, but they believed in him and they followed him, and he actually lost a lot of people. I mean, my husband and I were like amazed at like how much of a numbers game it was. This is in the late 1800s, and I'm really bad about history, so the fact that I even know that is because I just watched it like 2 days ago. But it was amazing because like the way they fought wars, it was like, well, we have 100,000 people and they have 70,000 people, so we're likely to win. It's like literally a numbers game. You're like, and I'm thinking, where do they get all these people from? And part of it, I'm thinking, well, I guess, in the 1800s, there wasn't a lot of contraception. Like, you're probably had a lot of.
It's funny.
Like,
I thought the same thing, but
I was like,
and obviously that's probably not anywhere near true in terms of where the population came from. But the first thing that jumped into my head was, boy, that's a lot of unprotected sex.
oh, I don't mean to go there, but but I'm thinking to myself too, is like, how would you have died in that day and age, right? You would have either gotten sick or you would have been killed in battle. Like as a man, you're like killed in battle or you got sick, right? I mean, their life expectancy is a lot lower.
Right.
But you got a lot of young people that you could put in the military because, theoretically there's just a lot of people being born, and you also, it was an age where you needed more people to get stuff done. So like, sort of the farm mentality, like you need 6 to 8 children because you're working a farm. Like you can't just have one child. That's not cutting it, right? So anyway, different times. So, but I was just amazed, like the amount of people in battle. If you look up the stats, you can Google this, like the Napoleonic Wars, like how many people did he lose in battle? But the point being is, I truly think that Napoleon was not just interested in winning. He actually says he wanted peace, and it was like peace through war. Like he felt like, well, if we have this war and we win, then it's like, okay, let's now negotiate a truce. Like he wasn't like, I don't want a truce, I just want to annihilate everybody. Like that wasn't, he wanted a truce, he wanted pieces. I mean, you can agree or disagree, but my point being is that he had leadership. People wanted to follow him. They wanted to follow him even if they were going to die, but I don't think he wanted them to die. Like, meaning I don't think he took any pleasure in people dying. He wanted to win, right? But when somebody says, hey, I'm a leader, I'm going to lead you into battle, I'm going to sit back while you die, and I'm going to be like, wow, that's pretty amazing. I actually led that person to their own demise. But I mean, that's manipulative. I quite frankly, I think it's evil. I mean, there's like a line there where if you don't appreciate somebody's well-being, forget about their life. But if I don't have appreciation for somebody's well-being, if I'm not making decisions that are in the best interest of their well-being, not just my own, what I want, if what I'm doing with my team is only serving myself, I think that is manipulative. It should be serving the team. So there are things I might make my team do that they don't want to do. I won't say make my team do, persuade my team to do that they don't want to do. However, if it's for their own good, their own success, that's okay. If it's for my benefit and their demise, then I feel like that's where the manipulation comes in. I mean, my first thought is manipulation is I'm lying to some degree.
Mhm.
I'm not being totally transparent or totally truthful. Whereas persuasion, there's no lies. It's just like my strategy for getting them on my side, like convincing them. Manipulating, there's a certain amount of untruth with that. But furthermore, are my interests for myself or for my team? And maybe that's where the line is, but I would still say myself. I'm not gonna feel okay lying to anybody, even if it's in their own best interest, but there are omissions of truth, and when I think about this, I think about, like, with children, right? You're gonna tell a child, "Don't do this or don't do that." Maybe something's a little bit more complicated, like, um, maybe, like, doing drugs or something like that. Maybe you have to have a trite answer for a 4-year-old, but a 14-year-old, you can have a more detailed answer, more information, right? So it doesn't mean you have to tell all, but that doesn't mean you have to be dishonest either.
As
I don't
a
know.
as a leader, I think we spend a lot of time persuading. Do you think that there's ever a scenario where manipulation is the right answer?
I don't think so, but I think my colleagues would disagree. And I mean, I'm
So why would they disagree?
means justifies the end justifies the means. End
Mm.
justifies the means.
Yeah,
I mean, I think
I'm a fan of the journey, not necessarily just the end.
yeah. I mean, for me it becomes a morality issue and actually a spiritual issue. We never talk about this, and I hope it's it's okay to broach this topic, but I'm Christian, I'm Catholic, and although the work I do is secular, I am not. And so I cannot operate in a way that doesn't work for God, because in the end I'm going to die and deal with that. And also even my current living situation, I deal with that. I have to have that honor
Mhm.
in the work that I do, and not everybody feels that way. Even if they have a religious background, they may not. May feel like the end is justified, and it's okay to lie if it's for a greater good. I don't agree, and I hold to that. And I actually, to be honest with you, later and later in my career, um, I found that I've surrounded myself with people who feel similarly, and maybe other belief systems. I'm one of my colleagues is Hindu. I mean, you don't have to share my religious beliefs, but they have that integrity, and it is unacceptable to lie. That doesn't mean you have to tell everybody everything, to manipulate, to lie, to have any sort of lack of integrity in how you operate with people isn't okay, even if the end is justifiable. The means need to be righteous. And I mean, as you get farther in your career, you can work with whoever you want to work with. You find that you stop working with the people who don't have integrity. And integrity is actually not a morality. It's you do what you say and you say what you do,
Yeah,
right? And if
I boil that down too. I'm you and I are on the same page with this. Arguably, one of the things I've always struggled with is again, as you get a longer view, this whole idea that the ends justify the means. Well, you know what? I'm not real sure that the ends are always just because they're okay right then, that the consequences of that behavior And the consequences of that end aren't necessarily pretty ugly in the long run.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. And is it the journey or the destination? And we spend a lot more time in journey than we do in destination. And I do also hold that as a leader, one of my roles, not just to get the work done, but to support my team in their well-being. And I don't know how I could support them in their well-being if they're going to be lied to or manipulated for some outcome that benefits me.
I'm
So,
currently reading Kurzweil's The Singularity is Nearer, which
mm,
is an interesting book in its own right. If you woke up tomorrow morning and someone handed you the answer to extending human life 2 centuries, what would you
mm.
do with it?
Well, I don't know that that's I don't know. I feel like there's some ethics and morality there. Like
Oh, there's a ton.
I I first of all, I'm not sure that I want to exist in this world forever. I'm actually
I'm only saying a
because
couple hundred years more.
oh, I just that's that I should I don't know. I don't I th- I our lives is our temporary endeavor. Our spirits are an eternal existence. So I think that, somewhat our existence here is a maybe like sort of a proving grounds, a sandbox of, you know, do you play nicely? Who are you? I mean, I kind of think my role as a human being is to bring pieces of the divine eternal world to people in a moment. Meaning like there are things that you can do where people actually feel the presence of divinity. It could be something that comforting somebody when they're sad, you know, being with them when they're alone or, reaching out to them, food, resources, whatever. There are things that you can do for people where they feel like they're being touched by something greater. And I as a human being, I almost feel like that's one of my duties is to do that, to bring a little bit of that divine eternal world to this world, which is not divine and eternal. I mean, will the planet exist after I die? Yes, I believe it will for quite some time. Anyway, I guess I don't really want to be alive for hundreds of years. I mean, I watched my dad lived until he was almost 95, and I mean, I what you're telling me is that would be a much better life. It's not like you're just hanging along, but I don't know.
I don't know that it would be a better life. I don't know given again, so this is sort of a conundrum, and it's the same conundrum with manipulation and persuasion, right? There are ethical issues that are involved that aren't just black and white. We've got something to deliver, we've got a date to deliver. So those things have to be weighed, and they you have to weigh what you leave when you're done out of the whole thing. If you know, I'm torn because that would be interesting, right? To live an extra 100 years. But if everybody did, this planet can't absorb the resources. It just eat the resources up. You could
Yeah,
just
I mean, what's the quality of that life? Like that's what
right.
I wonder.
Well,
Is the
that's
quality.
I've been reading a lot of Stoic philosophy also, which argues that, and again, that it's non-religious, so it's neither it can live within all sorts of frameworks. Matter of fact, St. Thomas More and some of the great early Catholic theologians all were Stoic and Stoics. So their argument is the Stoics is at some point you live by ethics, you live by wisdom, and the party is over at some point, and you gotta go home.
Yeah, I mean, I don't I don't know. I don't have any concerns about like. So here's the thing. It's like I'm not interested in eternal life here on Earth because there's eternal life in heaven. I believe that, and so I guess it's less of a concern for me. I don't know for sure, but I'll let you know after I die. I'll come back as a ghost.
Hey, if you go first, please haunt me. I'm in, and we could maybe record that for a new podcast or something. Susan, if people want to discuss the ethics of manipulation and persuasion and using that as a leader in a team and an organization, how would they go about finding Susan Parente?
You can find me on LinkedIn. It'll show up that I am in the Washington, D.C. area. I'm actually in Delaware, but I do work in D.C. and the New York tri-state area. So find me there, Susan Parente, Parente, parent with an E. Or you can email me, and that is Parente at S as in Sam, the number 3 dash TEC.com. So you can find me either one of those places, and I look forward to hearing from you.
And all that will be in the show notes, and I am glad I added. So, Susan, again, fabulous. Wasn't where I thought this was going.
Me neither. I like it. It's funny because I got the I got the eternal whatever thing happening behind me too. I call it Brave New World. That's what I call this background.
It is certainly sort of the big picture.
Hey, cool. I want to tell you a joke if you have. I think you have 2 minutes
Sure.
here.
A few minutes.
So let me make sure I get it. Let me get it organized in my head first. Okay. So these 2 guys are on a baseball team together, and they're talking about, hey, I wonder when you die if you're when you go to heaven if there's baseball or not. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a good question. It's like, well, if one of us goes first, like come back and let the other one know, right? And so actually the one guy dies, he goes to heaven. And I'm probably messing up this joke, but anyway, he goes to heaven and he comes back to the guy and he says, "Hey, I got good news and bad news." And he goes, "Oh, well, what's the good news? Good news is there's baseball in heaven. Bad news is you're scheduled to pitch on Tuesday." So, anyway,
that's a pretty good bad joke.
That's a pretty good bad joke. I'll actually try to go find the joke, and I'm sure I missed something in there. But anyway, it was just cute that he's like, "Oh, great, there's nice baseball in heaven." Yeah, bad news is you're playing. So,
well, you're in. We've got you penciled in for Tuesday.
It's penciled in. All right.
So, well, fabulous. We will talk again soon. This week, in Chapter 2 of Development is Freedom by Amartya Sen, the author takes a deep dive into the goals and mechanisms of development. Links in the show notes to this week's installment of Reread Saturday and all previous weeks. In the software process of measurement cast number 851, we will feature our interview with Mike Paciello. We discuss digital accessibility. If the web is an ubiquitous tool, then everyone needs to be able to interact with as little friction as possible. Today, that's a dream, but it doesn't have to be. If process improvement is a never-ending journey, why do so many people ask, are we there yet?